Welcome to the July 2026 committee meetings of Dubbo Regional Council. I advise that Council is now web streaming its standing committees and council meetings live to the internet, and as such, all those present should refrain from making any defamatory statements. Your attendance at this meeting is your acceptance of the condition that your image may be recorded and streamed to the internet, as well as being retained in the archive of the recorded council meetings and standing committee meetings. I now open the July 2026 Infrastructure Planning and Environment Committee meeting, the time being 5:33 p.m. First up, we'll have Councillor Wells with the acknowledgement of country, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land that we meet and gather today, the Tabaga people of the Wiradjuri Nation, also acknowledging the other clan groups in the area. I acknowledge elders past and present, and I also continue to acknowledge our emerging leaders. Pay my respects to everybody here at present here today, and hopefully we will have a very productive meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item is the apologies. I have received apologies from Councillor Shibli Chowdhury, Councillor Matthew Dickerson and Councillor Adam Ryan, and an application to attend a meeting via audio-visual link from Councillor Lucas Butler, who will be voting by show of hands. Can I have someone to move that, please? Councillor Ivey, seconded by Councillor Toynton. Could governance please open the voting on that? Please cast your votes. And Councillor Butler, if you turn your mic on, then you will pop up on the screen and you can show us your hand. We'll note that Councillor Butler wasn't able to vote on that, is not able to join the meeting. Right. Next up, conflicts of interest. Does anyone have any conflicts of interest to declare? Oh, carried. Does anyone have any conflicts to declare? No. Matters considered by committees. Item 1.3.1. First up, we have the report of the Renewable Energy Zone Benefit Committee meeting held 21 May 2026. Do I have someone to move that, please? Councillor Ivey, seconded by Councillor Wright. Councillor Ivey, would you like to speak to that?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other debate, councillors? There being none, we'll put that. Please open the voting. Please cast your votes. Noting that Councillor Butler wasn't able to vote. Carried unanimously. Next item is 1.4.1. Draft Planning Agreement VPA 23-002 Maryvale Solar Farm results of public exhibition. Do I have someone to move that, please? Councillor Richardson and seconded by Councillor Toynton. Councillor Richardson, would you like to speak to that?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any debate, councillors? Councillor Toynton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just noting in the report on we've got on page 1, $580,000 upgrades 4.8 kilometres of road, and yet for 2 kilometres of road it's $1.34 million. Is there any reasoning for that discrepancy in the pricing of these benefits? And just the other thing I'll call out is I don't actually feel it fair to essentially upgrade a driveway and call it a benefit to the community as a secondary benefit, such as the community is getting a benefit as a consequence of someone doing business rather than a direct benefit that says, here you go, this is entirely up to you, with no skin in the game for us as a developer. So just some clarity on the costs of the road and to voice my disapproval for it.
To the General Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. And through you, my understanding is that we were meant to update these papers to reflect that they were a section of the road, that it was a contribution towards a section, not the full payment for the cost of that. But I'll refer to the Director if you'd like to add further.
Through you, Mr. Chair, in respect of the $580,000 to upgrade a 4.9 kilometre section of Saxa Road, this figure was arrived at through an assessment process with the actual traffic from this development on that section of Saxon Road between Maryvale Road and the Mitchell Highway. So it's not a full upgrade for 580,000 because that'd be a lot more than 580,000. I think the report talks about 5.8 million from my memory. In respect of Maryvale Road, the 1.34 million, it's to, I think as it says there, apply bitumen to the unsealed section, which is about 2 kilometres of Maryvale Road there as well.
Councillor Toynton, further.
Yep. So just a question with that $1.2 million for the upgrade to seal Maryvale Road, is that counted as a contribution from the developer? Is that included in the community benefit, or is that they are able to do that, which is they're essentially wrecking that road to take their gear down there anyway, so they should be made to pay for it. What I don't feel fair is that them paying for their own damages, suddenly saying, oh, look, we broke that, but we threw $1 and a bit million at your roads, when it's like, yeah, they're roads you guys destroyed. You should be paying for them.
Dilapidation they caused. To the General Manager.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you to the Director of Development and Environment.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, in respect of Maryvale Road, it's not actually included as a condition in the Maryvale development consent. So if we didn't actually get to a point of being able to negotiate these funds with Gentari, that road would not have been upgraded or changed or bettered or anything as a result of this planning agreement.
Councillor Toynton, further. Thank you. Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just a bit of clarification following up that one of Councillor Toynton there. That 2 kilometres of Maryvale Road, pardon my ignorance, is that all unsealed at the moment, or is it just a couple of small patches that are sealed? Is it a full upgrade?
General Manager.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you to the Director of Development and Environment.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the 2 kilometre section's unsealed.
Councillor Wright, further.
Yeah, and I do. And in part 5 of the development contributions, I just noted the admin fees. It talked about the admin fees payable from the funds allocated to the projects, and not an additional annual fee payable by the developer. I just vaguely recall we had a discussion previously where admin fees were paid over and above, and not out of the funds that council was to receive as part of the agreement. Just want to get a bit of clarity around that, if I can. Is that actually correct?
General Manager.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you to the Director of Development and Environment.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yep, you're absolutely correct, Councillor Wright. So the Council's Renewable Energy Benefit Framework, that's how it's definitely set up. Following the conclusion of the public exhibition process, we went back to Gentari and had a robust discussion around administration fees, and because it was raised in the submissions. And I'd have to say that, we did have some really good submissions and some great feedback with this VPA, and some really good stuff there, which we've been able to look to incorporate into the planning agreement there as well. In terms of that, with Gentari, it wasn't able to be an add-on as to where that's at in terms of on top. Excuse me, but also I'd probably just remind there that with this planning agreement, it's been one that we've been able to basically pick up on. The initial approval didn't have a planning agreement requirement with it from the state government. When they did modify the consent, we were able to try and build this agreement. It's not specifically in accordance with our framework, 100%, but we've just been trying to do the best we can, in dealing with the applicant and trying to build what benefits we can for the community.
Noted. Thank you.
Further councillors. Councillor Ivey.
Just a comment, Mr. Chair, following on from Councillor Toynton's question, the cost of upgrading that 2 kilometres of road. Again, I wondered about that at the time too, but in speaking to a number of landowners in the area, they are very much in favour of that. They really are seeing it as a benefit over and above what they had prior to that, to the development. So in that sense, I think the community are regarding it as as a benefit.
Thank you. Further councillors? I'll just ask a question through to the General Manager. What happens at the end of the 25 years if the project is still there? Does this automatically renew? Is there a new thing? Can we get some sort of steer on what happens at the end of this agreement? Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you to the Director of Development and Environment.
Through you, Mr. Chair, and thanks for the question as well. So from the submissions, that was raised. It was a great point, and it did come up in the submissions. We've built in another clause into the draft planning agreement, which does specifically look to deal with that situation if and when it does arise as well.
Thank you. Councillor Ivey?
So through you, Mr. Chair, so I take that as to mean, which was what I understood it was, so effectively the VPA agreement or the community benefit agreement lasts for the life of the project. That's right. So if the project goes for 30 years, that benefit continues through. Is that right?
To the General Manager?
Thank you, Mayor, and through you to the Director of Development and Environment.
Just finding it here. Exact wording.
Renegotiated the terms. Clause 6.2.
Through you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. General Manager, for picking up on it. I went straight past it. Clause 6.2, if the project is repowered after the initial term of the agreement, Council has the right to renegotiate the terms of this agreement.
Thank you. Further councillors? Righto. There being none, we go back to the mover, Councillor Richardson.
No thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. We will have a vote on that. Please open the voting. Please cast your votes. Hang on, I need to refresh. Where are we? Carried unanimously, noting that Councillor Butler's online but unable to vote. Next up, we have 1.4.2 Development Activity Summary. Would someone like to move that, please? Councillor Toynton, seconded by Councillor Cowley. Councillor Toynton, would you like to speak to that?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Further debate, councillors? There being none, we'll open the voting on that, please. Please cast your votes. Carried unanimously with Councillor Butler unable to vote. 1.4.3 Development Application D 2025-506 Extractive Industry Limestone Quarry. Councillor Ivey?
Mr. Mayor, I should declare a conflict of interest in relation to this issue.
Right, I will get a mover in a second and then you can go right ahead. Someone to move that. Councillor Toynton, seconded by Councillor Wright. Councillor Ivey.
You mentioned conflict.
I will declare a conflict of interest in relation to this issue, in that I have family members who use the Ponto Falls Road and the area. So it's a non-pecuniary interest, but I will leave the room and not vote.
Thank you. Non-pecuniary significant interest. Yep. One, two, three, four, five, six. We've got six. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 of 11. We've got 6. So we've got a majority. Yeah, we've got quorum. We're right. Okay, so Councillor Ivey will leave the room. We've got a quorum. No speakers to this item. Okay, that was moved by Councillor Toynton, seconded by Councillor Wright. Councillor Ivy's declared an interest and left the room. Councillor Toynton, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I've got nothing for this one.
Thank you. Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Mr. Chair, and certainly thanks to the proponent for coming back to council after this was deferred previously by council to have further discussion. I think the thing that sold me here is point 11 of that planning summary report just mentions that there is already an approval in place for 20 vehicle movements per week on that existing sand extraction quarry, and this 20 vehicles we're talking about for this one will actually be shared with that other one as well. So overall, the way I'm reading this, there is no net increase to vehicles as a result of that. But I will just ask the question to get a bit of clarity around that if I can, to make sure that I am reading that correctly. There's no net increase if we're talking about those 20 vehicle movements being shared between both quarries.
General Manager.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you to the Director of Development and Environment.
Through you, Mr. Chair, Councillor Wright, yes, that's correct. So there's a condition in the draft set of conditions there attached to the report which reflects that requirement as well. So basically, how we understand it is that the sand quarry operations are very much ramping down in terms of that existing approval, and then this will take over that vehicle movement activity.
Councillor Wright, further.
I need just to ask a question with respect to any negotiation with the proponent on the possibility of contributions towards road maintenance at any time. Is that something that's discussed as a part of this?
General Manager.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you to the Director of Development and Environment.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I might get the Acting Manager Building and Development Services down to the microphone where he can answer that, and I'll chip in if required.
Thank you, Mr. Jennings. Yeah, look, the Wellington's covered by an old Section 712 plan, which basically levies contributions based on the percentage of cost of works. We are a little bit different from what Dubbo has, where there's different ways of calculating contributions with regards to the former Wellington local government area. It's primarily done on the cost of works, which for a development like this, is not a huge total. So we're only restricted basically to 1% of that. So there's, I think it's condition 6 of the general conditions outlines the contribution that's required for that. Council doesn't have, my understanding, doesn't have a heavy haulage contribution policy or anything to cover things like this that might where you could levy a contribution that's outside of what's sort of in that contribution plan. So we're really sort of basically restricted to what's in that contribution plan at the moment. So in the absence of any other contribution plans, we're sort of restricted to what we've got there at the moment.
And some additional from the Director.
Through you, Mr. Chair, in terms of, we do have 2 voluntary planning agreements in place for road haulage at the moment. So they're both on Sheraton Road, and they're the hard rock quarries that are existing down there. In respect of road maintenance, they're about 12 or 13 cents per tonne extracted, which goes towards the maintenance of Sheraton Road there as well. So based on the 20,000 tonnes per annum, it'll be, well, really that's the only figure we've got to go on just for the minute there as well. But in terms of that, that wasn't specifically raised with the applicant as part of the process, but given the road condition and the fact that there's 20 existing movements which will basically morph into the 20 movements for this development, we probably don't see that there's a need which we've assessed as part of that process.
Councillor Wright, further?
No, thanks, Mr. Chair.
Further debate, councillors? I just got a couple of questions. Having read all of the submissions, and I thank all the people for making submissions and sending in emails and things like that, there was some discussion about the heavy vehicle movements when the school bus was going along there. Is that a school bus route, and is there a possibility of putting like a school bus restriction on truck movements? and about the speed limit as well. There's, I think it's various submissions said it was 100k speed limit. Is there anything we could do to limit that for trucks and buses or something? General Manager?
Thank you, Mayor, and through you to the Director of Development and Environment. It's not taken on.
So he's got that look on his face, Mr. General Manager. In terms of speed, or speed restrictions and the like, that's a matter that's considered by the Traffic Committee. I don't know if Beck, as Acting Director, has any context there, but I think it's something we have to take on notice there as well. So we can come back with an answer on that, because I just can't be definitive of what I can provide the committee here tonight.
Thank you. Yeah, look, I'll vote for this, noting the community concerns, thinking that we might be able to do some things to mitigate that, and noting that this shouldn't be too many additional truck movements. It should be to do with, there's already the 20 that's approved for the sand quarry. Obviously going out onto, I think it was at Highfield Road, might be a better way to do it, but might be impractical due to millions of dollars worth of upgrades required there. And I do acknowledge the concerns, significant concerns of the community, but think if we could put some things in place to mitigate that around school bus times and the speed limit for trucks and buses on that road, that may help things. And noting, as Councillor Wright noted, that it's cumulative total of 20, so one trip in, one trip out counts as 2, so it'd be 10 truck and dogs a week max. That's sort of already allowed. Further debate, councillors. Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a question in relation to the school bus limit. My understanding is that many of the school buses have the flashing lights that you have to be doing, I think, 40 kilometres, no more than 40 kilometres during that time. That's part of the mitigation, I would hope, but I'm not quite sure what buses are travelling along that route. Is there any information about what buses are travelling?
General Manager.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you to the Director of Development and Environment.
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's something I'll come back in that package of information as well to councillors, just on if there's any other mitigation measures that we can provide on Ponto Falls Road.
Thank you. Further debate, councillors. There being none, we'll go back to the mover. Councillor Toynton, right of reply to anything there?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Everything's been clarified.
Thank you. Please open the voting, Governance. Please cast your votes. Right, we've got Councillor Butler online now voting. Thanks, Councillor Butler, and that's carried unanimously. The next item we have is 1.44, draft WA Regional House. Oh, yeah, Councillor Ivey. We'll invite Councillor Ivey back into the room. Next item is 1.44, draft WA Regional Housing Strategy, consideration of submissions. Do I have someone to move that, please? Councillor Toynton, seconded by Councillor Wells. We have some public speakers here. I'll now run through the rules for public speakers. You have a maximum of 5 minutes to address council. When you come forward to speak, please state your name. When you have 30 seconds remaining, you'll hear a bell at 5. When the 5 minutes is up, the bell will be rung multiple times, the microphone will be turned off, and you will conclude speaking. Only registered speakers will be called forward to speak. Gallery members should refrain from any disruptive behaviour, including clapping or jeering. I'll now call forward the following speakers. First up, we have Mr. Michael Edwards, please.
Good evening, Mayor, councillors and council staff. My name is Michael Edwards. I'm 68 years of age and fast approaching 70. I lived my entire life in Dubbo, raised our kids here in this wonderful city. I was present in the Macquarie Street back in the days when the township of Dubbo was proclaimed a city back in 1966. I've seen Dubbo go from having no Orana Mall, no Riverdale, no houses beyond the old Molong railway line, definitely no South Lakes, no houses beyond the Water Tower in Miles Street. I've seen Dubbo grow and continue to grow into this amazing regional city, and it will continue to grow. And that's the important part. It will continue to grow, and we need a plan for that growth. Properly plan for that growth and offer the wonderful range of living and housing opportunities that Dubbo has offered in the past, to my family, to your families. I come here tonight to speak on the recommendations before the Council concerning Hampton Park. I want to acknowledge the Council has previously taken a strong position in relation to the proposed Hampton Park solar factory. Council lodged formal objections and expressed concerns about the impacts this development could have on the future growth and planning of Dubbo. Did you get a response? We didn't. That is why I find recommendation 5 difficult to understand. The recommendation states that the Hampton Park should not be rezoned to R5 large lot residential at this time, pending the outcome of the State Significant Development Assessments process. My question is simple. Why should Dubbo's future planning be put on hold because of a development proposal that the Council itself has objected to? If Council believes Hampton Park is an important strategic area for future residential growth, and previous statements suggest that it does, then surely the logical course of action is to continue planning for that future, not pause it indefinitely while waiting for a state government determination on a flawed solar factory proposal. The recommendation appears to place the future of Hampton Park in the hands of a development application rather in the hands of the Council's own strategic vision for Dubbo. The reality is that Dubbo continues to grow. Future generations will need housing, infrastructure and well-planned communities. Strategic planning is about looking decades ahead, not simply responding to the proposal currently on the table. What concerns me most is the apparent inconsistency between Council's previous position and the recommendation of Council staff before us tonight. Council has argued that the proposed solar farm and battery project could compromise future development opportunities. Yet this recommendation effectively does the opposite thing by delaying consideration of Hampton Park as a part of Dubbo's long-term growth strategy. If Hampton Park is suitable for future residential development, then it should remain a priority within the Council's planning framework. If Council no longer believes that it has a strategic residential future, then the community deserves a clear explanation to why that position has changed. I am also concerned about the message that this sends to the community and to the adjacent landholders. Council has advocated for Hampton Park as an area for future significant growth and has objected to the development that may sterilise that opportunity. However, tonight's recommendation appears to step back from that position rather than reinforce it. Strategic planning decisions should be driven by what is in the long-term interest of Dubbo, not by the timing or existence of a single state significant development application. Therefore, I respectfully ask Council to explain how Recommendation 5 aligns with its previous objections to the Hampton Park solar factory. I also ask Council to consider whether Hampton Park should continue to be actively identified and progressed as part of Dubbo's future residential and land development, rather than have its future deferred pending the state development. The people of Dubbo deserve clarity. They deserve consistency. They deserve confidence that the Council's strategic planning decisions guided by long-term vision for our region's growth and not to be determined by a foreign-owned company. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Next up, we have Mrs. Karen Mayers.
Back again.
Mr Mayor, Deputy Mayor and councillors, thank you. I'm Karen Mayers, speaking on item 1.4.4. First, my genuine thanks. In November, this council stood up for our community and resolved to oppose the Hampton Park storage system. Council opposed this proposal because it recognised that Hampton Park is not compatible with adjoining residents and that it would encroach on Dubbo's future housing opportunities and its ability to leverage existing infrastructure. That is part of our housing strategy. Council specifically identified the project's proximity to 200 residences, its impact on future housing potential, and its social, visual and emergency impacts. Tonight I'm asking the Council to ensure that one of the key reasons for opposing the Hampton Park project back in November is also reflected in the housing strategy. The Hampton Park section of the planning report contains 3 specific recommendations arising from submissions received. The first recommendation is that Hampton Park not be rezoned R5 lot residential at this time, pending the outcome of the state's significant development process. I understand the reasoning behind that position, although I respectfully disagree that Council should wait for a state process before progressing on its own strategic planning direction. The conflict with the project is the reason we should be progressing a planning proposal and supports the decision made back in November to oppose due to future conflicts. The second recommendation is that Hampton Park project is not developed. That is, if the Hampton Park project is not approved, Council undertakes a planning proposal process then to rezone the land from R1 primary production to R5 lot residential. This recommendation is important. It acknowledges that Hampton Park remains strategically significant for future rural residential development. Very few of the submissions received would have supported this recommendation though. Quite simply, it will be too little too late. The third recommendation is that Council proceed to accurately reflect the developed and vacant status of large lot residential land surrounding Dubbo in the housing strategy. It is not clear what is inaccurate on page 19 of the strategy, and we would urge councillors to confirm the hypothetical classification of Hampton Park, page 19 of the strategy, remains unchanged as vacant urban before endorsing. My concern is that when we turn back to the recommendations in the first 3 pages, councillors are only being asked to adopt tonight the first of those to be voted upon. The second and third recommendations are somewhere in the body of the report, page 12, I think. Hampton Park was identified through Council's 2020 rural land issues work as potential future opportunity for rural lifestyle investment. It also recognises that the purpose of strategic planning is to identify and protect long-term growth opportunities. This is long before the battery proposal, and therefore there is no conflict in Council progressing their own strategy. This matters because the state's own planning framework for renewable energy projects requires consideration of the impacts on a regional city's future growth capacity. Dubbo is specifically mentioned. Council has already taken the position that Hampton Park has strategic value for future housing and lifestyle development. If Council believes that position, then we ask for the planning proposal to commence now and not be delayed. Because once strategically located land capable of supporting future housing and leveraging existing infrastructure is lost to an industrial scale energy infrastructure, that opportunity is lost indefinitely. My request is to please ensure that the final outcome adopted by the Council tonight clearly reflects Hampton Park's long-term strategic value for the housing and lifestyle development, not just the decision to defer rezoning while the SSD process continues. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next we have Mrs. Audrey Tremaine.
My name is Audrey Tremaine. Honourable Josh Black of Dubbo Regional Council, councillors, staff members and ladies and gentlemen. I'm speaking about the same matter, the gender of rezoning of Hampton Park. I reiterate much of those points of the last two speakers. Over the course of many months, I have listened to our mayor and councillors, also staff, at community engagement meetings, example Wongarban Hall, and other community places in the district, discussed the subject of solar factories and less time, really, on wind factories, and I praise them for this. Positive aspects of solar panels are for solar water pumps, which we have 2, rooftop panels, panels on stands and large sheds, owners' buildings such as the dairies like Indus's, horticulture, for instance, with so much refrigeration, that's including in the dairies. These panels that they're still out there on our place that we have on stands are fit for no purpose now. They went out of service about 4 years ago. So that's actually only lasted about 8 years. Already we paid for one inverter, and then we would necessitate to pay for another inverter, which is about $1,200 for those panels to be reorganised. So now for the negative aspects, and specifically the cumulative effects of so many solar factories in the Dubbo Regional Council. Ben Coven Estate resident Jenny Murphy's letter to the editor of the Land newspaper last month. RES impacts immeasurable. Continues, as of December 2025, Dubbo Regional Council had identified 26 renewable energy projects in its LGA area, either constructed or in the New South Wales system. Last paragraph, when will a community policy be created for this area, central Arana Res, and will it arrive before irreversible land use decisions that will cause right now our region to be carved up without any strategy? A fair while ago I wrote to the editor of The Australian in reference to the front page of September 13 and 14, 2025. Also The Guardian, that paper quoted also the editor of the Land newspaper twice. Responding to New South Wales Farmers Association President Xavier Martin, farmers left footing the bill, the carbon bill. I responded the next week's edition saying the areas around Wellington, Dubbo and Orange have been so oversupplied with renewables, forsaking scenic views, the very highest possible buy-sell land and prime agricultural land, all for the sake of panels, substations, battery storage and wind towers. This is short-term gain for a few people, maybe, yet long-term pain for many of us. And yet, even though there is a plan to lower electricity prices, it is not happening. Now, I have spoken to Alison Francis this afternoon. Her husband is in agreement that I quote his name too also. They've given me permission of much of what they printed on Facebook. They travelled to Grenfell over the long weekend, June long weekend. Alison is counting the solar stations that she's seeing. Few, she said, only 4. I mean solar on properties, like looking a little bit. They've also driven north, she tells us. Depends which way, I know. She couldn't have gone through Walker, etc. She's come home and she writes very good pieces on Facebook saying that to come back to the Wellington area and Dubbo up here is just the most shocking area she's seen. And she has other people saying the same. People are saying, adding in on Facebook. Now, Alison's father and her late father and my brother were similar age, both on Wellington Council. So these two pledged to work. community they represented. Those days a ward, now dismantled. She's talked with some of these Mary Fay people. That she has people saying to her, we hate it, but we think, oh, well, what we... I've talked to some over at Furgrove. One lady said to me, well, I didn't come to that meeting. I really am just so depressed. I have people speaking to...
Mrs. Tremaine, that's a good 5 minutes there. Thank you. Next up, we have Mr. Peter Dwyer.
Councillors, Peter Dwyer, and I wish to speak to 1.4.4 draft regional housing strategy. Mr. Chairman and councillors, may I commend the council on the recommendation for a review of the process of the regional cities map, commonly referred to as the pink map. This is a positive step. By way of explanation, the map covers the area surrounding a regional city, which prevents the inclusion of state significant developments. The current map used by Planning New South Wales in their 2021 SEP is dated 2007 and totally out of date. In fact, if this map was current, most of us wouldn't be here tonight discussing the Hampton Park project, because it would be in the pink zone and therefore would be ineligible. This brings me to the rest of this report, and councillors, I'm both bewildered, dismayed and disillusioned after reading some outcomes of this strategy. And I direct my address to recommendation 5, which reads that land at Hampton Park not be rezoned to R5 large lot residential under the provisions of the Dubbo Regional LEP 2022 at the current time, pending the outcome of the state significant development process for the proposed Hampton Park solar farm and battery energy storage system. Councillors, if this SED is approved, the land at Hampton Park will be lost forever to future housing within the DRC. Why wait until then? The rezoning of Hampton Park would stop ARES in their tracks and at least put roadblocks up to delay this project in line with the council policy of the 18th of December 2025. And I know you all were here and voted on that, but I'm going to state what happened in that meeting. The council resolved to convey its opposition to the Hampton Park SESS renewable energy project to the Department of Housing, Planning and Infrastructure, recommending that the state significant project be no further progressed. Some of the other items in that motion indicate that the project's proximity to 200 houses, noted that it would encroach on Dubbo's future potential for housing options and its ability to leverage existing infrastructure for the next 40 plus years. It also mentioned the council right to the Minister for Planning and Public Spaces in respect to the following, raising concerns that the compatibility of the Hampton Park solar and battery energy storage system with adjoining and adjacent rural residential or lifestyle lots, with the Ben Coven estate including visual amenity, social and bushfire aspect. Advising that council is currently preparing a new regional housing strategy, which we're discussing tonight, and that it may include provisions for rural residential development on the land subject to the Hampton Park solar farm and battery energy storage system. Councillors, the recommendation is a complete contrast to the council's policy on this project. Indeed, it could be said that rezoning of Hampton Park is a no-brainer. My understanding is that elected councillors are to create policy that favours ratepayers as their representatives on the council. From the items discussed in this item 1.4.4b, rezoning Hampton Park to Zone R5, it would seem that council zoning policy is having the shots called by a German investment company, who I noticed their representatives leaving the building as we walked in this evening, and not the elected representatives. When does council policy become the business of an overseas company and not council? I request that council reconsider the recommendation from this report. And I'd like to quote to you what I put in my submission, or part of it, which I won't get much time for all of it, in my submission in the original part for the regional housing strategy. The Hampton Park infill proposal is a comprehensive plan that takes into consideration the existing infrastructure, natural features and common preferences in the area. The gently sloping, well-drained land provides an ideal setting for residential development with views and a rural aspect that will appeal to residents seeking a peaceful lifestyle. The existing process access from Ben Coven Drive and the Mitchell Highway ensures convenient transportation options for the residents, while the backbone power and town water availability at the highway ensure essential services are readily accessible. Councillors, I just urge you please to take a very close look at this recommendation, and I really request that you give it serious consideration and reverse the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We now go back to the mover of the original motion for debate, Councillor Toynton.
Yep, so I was going to move the alternative, remove point 5.
Right, so that's an amendment. All right, so let me write that down here. So to remove point 5, is there a seconder? Councillor Richardson. Councillor Toynton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As we've heard from the public gallery, and my own observations of this were we shouldn't be dictated to by something that's, we're often told, stay in our lane. Well, the state government can deal with this at their own time, but as I said, how long is it before they deal with this? How long's a piece of string? I mean, are we supposed to put all our business to one side and say, oh, let's just put our entire operation on hold while the state government decides that they want to do this, that, or the other, if and when they get around to it? We've all seen how slow the state government acts on things. So, no, I don't believe we should be dictated to, and I think point 5 needs to go to the bin.
Thank you. Further debate, councillors. Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Mr. Chair, and thanks to all the speakers speaking pretty passionately on point 5, and for everyone who's contributed towards the feedback in this particular policy. But I just wanted to get a bit of clarity around point 5, and maybe I might be able to have the relevant director just walk me through that rezoning process, specifically in relation to Hampton Park and what that would look like, and maybe the impact of a rezoning if that was to take place.
General Manager.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you to the Director of Development and Environment.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So basically, I'll just probably take a step back and I'll answer your question there in my answer, Councillor Wright, if that's okay. So, yeah, we had about 20-ish submissions which specifically raised rezoning the Hampton Park site from RU1 primary production to R5 large lot residential. In the actual draft strategy, as it's worded here today, there's actually no specific rezoning of RU5 land has been proposed to be included. There's some work there that has to happen in the R5 land on the opposite side of the railway line. They're looking at capacity and also about how things happen there as well and how they can come together. However, in respect of rezoning, the rezoning process happens through a planning proposal. A planning proposal can be something that's commenced by a landowner or by a council, which is correct. However, for a planning proposal, we would ordinarily also require evidence that the landowner's in support, obviously, of what direction that there is with the actual planning proposal there as well. So at this stage, this is obviously a draft housing strategy for the next 20 to 30 years of the region. Obviously, the speakers have been very clear on that there as well. The next layer, which does come down in a planning process, is that, for specific rezonings and changes to the local environmental plan as well. So in terms of an actual planning proposal process, so just to be clear, if council resolved, obviously, with the draft housing strategy to commence a planning proposal process for the Hampton Park site, it would basically mean that staff, if we're directed to go in that direction, would go away and prepare the necessary documentation for a planning proposal. It does take some time. It's not something that we'd have back to council in 2 months or 3 months. Like, there is a lot of reports and time that does take to happen as well. And then the first stage of that process, when that first report does come up to council with the which is the actual planning proposal, that's where council decides on whether to move forward with a gateway determination request to the state government as well. So yes, rezoning does take time. It's not something that happens quickly, but I just wanted to sort of explain the nuances between this, at this stage with the land use strategy versus basically the planning proposal process and an actual change to a zone of land as well. I hope that answers in a roundabout way, Councillor Wright.
Councillor Wright, further?
Yeah, so just so with respect to that, you mentioned that if it got to that particular point, then it would go through gateway determination. Obviously, that'd land on the state government's desk. What sort of consideration would the state government then have on the basis there's a state significant development been undertaken on that land that council is considering rezoning?
General Manager.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you to the Director of Development and Environment.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'll speak on sort of how it happens with a local development application. Obviously, with a state significant development application, they're not applications that we get to consider, that my team get to look at from a determination point of view. What would happen, and similar to the advertising sign DAs that council have seen in the last month or so, what ordinarily happens where a draft planning proposal has been prepared, so it gets through that first resolution there with council of the actual draft planning proposal. What would happen there if a development application has been lodged before that council resolution? It can be considered by council as well. So that's what happened with the advertising sign DAs that you saw there last month. So, however, at the state significant development process, I'm happy to come back with some information and to seek some clarification from the Department of Planning, because it's not a process that we govern as well in that regard.
Councillor Wright.
Yeah, maybe something we need to come back to. But then I was just more thinking along the lines of a question then was if council did proceed down this particular line, although I say that just removing 0.5 doesn't specifically say that council will rezone, it just says we're not going to not think about it at this time. So it doesn't go the other way and say let's rezone it. If this state significant development is approved, and council does move ahead anyway and rezone the land, I'm guessing an approval would remain in place anyway, irrespective of the fact that the land was then rezoned after the effect. Is that correct?
General Manager.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you to the Director of Development and Environment.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes. So, if the land was rezoned later and there was an approval there, the approval's there. That's, if that approval has been issued by the state government and it's got no other impediments or specific conditions, it does stay for a period of time.
Councillor Wright, further?
No, I don't think so, Mr. Chair. I might... it's kind of for a council meeting in a couple of weeks' time. There might be some more debate on it. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey.
Thank you. Just a follow-up question too from Councillor Wright, and thank you very much. That really did. I think they were very important issues. But just to clarify, what is the likely timing between the approval or disapproval, but let's assume it's approved, of the state significant project and a rezoning, should we go ahead with it? What's the difference in timing likely to be?
It'd be a race. The General Manager.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you to the Director of Development and Environment.
Through you, Mr. Chair, a planning proposal process can take anywhere from 6 months to 18 months, then depending on the complexity of the actual planning proposal. So I've had a planning proposal process that took 8 years. So I'm not saying this is that one, but I'm just saying this, that's how the system operates in New South Wales. In terms of the timing for the state significant development, obviously I'm not deeply involved from a proponent or a state process side, but in my experience, I would, if I was a proponent, I'd budget probably, I'd say at least 12 months, if not 18 months for a state significant approval.
Councillor Ivey, further?
Yeah, so just to sort of clarify that or draw a conclusion from it, it's likely to be about the same sort of time. I mean, if this council decided to proceed with the rezoning, and as Councillor Wright said, that this motion, taking that out, doesn't say that that's going to happen, but if it did, the timing was likely to be similar to the state government timing of for the project.
General Manager.
Thank you, Aaron. Through you, Director of Development and Environment.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm getting a frog in my throat. From a raw timing perspective, most probably yes. However, just to be clear again, is that an actual planning proposal in preparing the documents and the background studies isn't something that happens overnight either. So,
Further debate, councillors? Councillor Wright?
Maybe just a bit of clarity around point 6. So specifically a letter to the minister with respect to a review of those changes. Can you just list maybe a couple of those specific points that we want the minister to review under that policy?
We're doing the amendment, but this feeds into that, so this will be right. General Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. And through you to the Director of Development and Environment.
Through you, Mr. Chair, as the resolution's been drafted at this stage, it doesn't have any clarifying points around, is it, 10 kilometres, 20 kilometres from a regional city? Is it 5 kilometres? I don't know the answer to that question, so I would basically see the Department of Planning doing the legwork as a review of their state policy, and then council and councils in New South Wales would get an opportunity to input into that review process.
Councillor Wright, further?
Which could include some feedback with respect to the map data that they're using based on some comments from Mr. Dwyer tonight, if that the information on that map could potentially be dated or aged. That's just a comment, not a question.
Further debate, councillors? I'll have a quick say about this on the way past. Look, it should be rezoned R5 with a minimum lot size of 10 hectares, I believe. As was alluded to before, it'd be a race between the who's going to get it in first. Would it be gazetted first, or would there be approval for the solar factory? But I'm just not sure that taking it out will achieve what we want it to achieve. I'll vote for it, but I'm not sure that it'll achieve what we want it to achieve. But I think it should be rezoned R5 large lot residential, minimum lot size 10 hectare. That'd fit in that area very nicely and solve a few problems, and it'd protect the longer term interests of the region. Thank you. Oh, Councillor Butler online. Did he have his hand up? Want to speak on this matter? No. We did have a message. Councillor Butler, you're still online there. If you turn your camera on, you'll be able to have a say here. No, it doesn't look like it. Back to Councillor Toynton for right of reply there.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll go to your point. Removing 0.5 might not do anything other than it sets our point up to say, well, we can structure this in a different way. If 0.5 is there, it snookers us as to what we can do. With it not being there, it allows our options as a council to be open for rezoning at a later time, or it just doesn't box us into a corner that says, well, we can't do anything with that area now because the state government's essentially got dibs on it, or we're waiting for them to do their thing. Noting some of the questions that have been asked, we'll have a deeper dive on this in 2 weeks' time when we can pull this out again and debate it in much greater depth at the ordinary meeting. That was Councillor Wright's point. Other than that, that's pretty much it.
Righto, thank you, councillors. This is just voting on Councillor Toyton's amendment to remove point 5. So please open the voting and please cast your votes. And Councillor Butler online, if you're still there, and turn your screen on, we'll be able to. No, all right. Well, noting that Councillor Butler wasn't able to vote on this one, carried unanimously. Now we go back to the motion minus point 5, what we had before, for debate on that, councillors. It'll be up on the screen in a minute. There we go. As per on the screen. Any debate? I'll just quickly say that, look, this will come back to us in a fortnight. They'll probably be redebated in 2 weeks. Probably have something to say in the South Dubbo proposal there, and I'll save it for a fortnight's time. Further debate, councillors? Councillor Toyton, anything to wrap up?
No.
All right, thank you. Please open voting. Please cast your votes. Carried unanimously, noting Councillor Butler's unable to vote. Connectivity issues there. As there are no further items, I declare the Infrastructure, Planning and Environment Committee closed, the time being 6:34 p.m. I now invite Councillor Wells to the chair for the Culture and Community Committee. Thank you.
I just realised that twice. Just closing my confidence. Oh, get up here. That's all. Okie dokie. Might wait for the people to leave. Cool. Or just flat. Nope. I now open the July 2026 Culture and Community Committee meeting, the time being 6:35? 35? Great, thank you. We'd like to start to see if there are, can I see if there are any conflicts of interest, please? There being none, we will continue on. Oh, actually, we have to vote on that, I think. No, we don't? Good. Moving to point 2.3 of the CCC matters considered by committees. There were no matters considered by committees. So I'll move on to 2.4. The Culture and Community Committee reports from the council officers. 2.4, and there doesn't appear to be any there. 2.4.1, Homeless People in Public Places Management Policy Review. The Director of Community Culture and Places, Craig Arms, am I asking for? No? Okay. Yeah, no. Could I please have a councillor to move the motion in the business papers, please? Moved by Councillor Toyton and seconded by, Councillor Cowley. Thank you. Councillor Toyton, would you like to speak to your motion, please?
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Are there any other further debates? Councillor Bate.
Thank you. I've got an amendment to move on this one. I sent it around before to councillors, and I'll put it in the and in the system, so hopefully it'll pop up. on the screen as I talk, but I'll read it out. It adds 2.1 that the report of the Manager of Community Services be noted, and it's 2 that Council notes the current homelessness policy was adopted on 14 October 2025, marking its first year of operation and warranting objective assessment to ensure it continues to meet the needs of the community and the changing housing and accommodation needs of homeless people. 3 that Council resolves to conduct an external review of the current homelessness policy to assess its operational efficacy, community impact and alignment with best practice housing first and trauma-informed methodologies, and includes comprehensive consultation with local specialist homelessness services and relevant non-government organisations, local business chamber, sporting and open space users and relevant government and community stakeholders, other selected local government areas managing homelessness along their river corridors such as Wagga Wagga and Albury City Councils. And point 4, that a report detailing the findings of the external review along with actionable recommendations for policy amendments be presented to Council for consideration at its November 2026 meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. To the General Manager for, just a question to General Manager around adding that to, I cannot pass to yet. Well, yeah, sorry. Be able to?
Thank you, Chair. Probably just to speak to it is that just to clarify that the external review is not to engage external consultants to undertake that review because there's no budget for that. It is for us to engage, to undertake a review that seeks to externally review, seeks to engage with external stakeholders. So this present report that's in front of you was an internal facing only, so we only talk to ourselves. The focus of this amendment, I believe, is to engage with external external comprehensive consultation.
I have a question. So,
Got a seconder?
sorry. Can I have a seconder for that, please? Thank you, Councillor Carley. May you speak to your report, Councillor Black?
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. Look, this just adds to what we've been doing so far, and let's see if it's actually working for the people around Dubbo and Wellington and the region. And if it's not working, then what do we need to change to make sure that people actually get the accommodation that they need with a roof over their head, and that some of the NGOs might need a bit of a hand to do that. But how do we get people into houses and not in tents and other places? How do we make as many people residing in homes as possible? I know that there's people sleeping rough and down the river that are on NDIS packages, and we can do better, I believe, to help the whole process run. And this is having a bit of a look at that and saying, right, how did it go the first 12 months? What can we do better in the future? Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Are there any further? Yep, Councillor Cowley.
Look, I thank you, Madam Chair. I heartily endorse this amendment for its practicality. I think the report is terrific, but this it introduces an element of what we can do practically. I think we should always, in all these debates, remember our humanity, and remember that it's not just about getting people into houses; it's about getting them the support that they need. But yeah, thoroughly endorse this. Bravo.
Thank you, Councillor Cowley. Any further comments? Councillor Ivey.
Just a question, Madam Chair. Again, I'm a little bit confused by the conduct an external review, but that's not. I mean, I read that to mean that review will be done externally to council, but that's not the intention. Is it? What's an external review mean?
To the General Manager.
Thank you, Chair. So I guess our interpretation as officers is that the report in front of you was an internal review. So we just talked amongst our own team as to what we saw the success or otherwise of the policy being. An external review means going out to external stakeholders and consulting with them. So it's still council officers undertaking the review, but it's an external facing activity rather than internal facing activity that was undertaken here.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Further comments or questions? Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Maybe I misunderstood the report. I had read the report as being a just a management tool for council when dealing with homeless people or persons sleeping rough. A bit of a guide on when council would act, generally under those conditions that are on page 5. A bit of engagement with around a support service and some externals. I'd rather than council sort of being responsible for some of those things like housing first and trauma informed methodologies. I thought that's the stuff that we would outsource because it becomes our problem if they're sleeping in public spaces, but not necessarily our issue to deal with per se, or it's not our, as Councillor Twine said earlier, staying in our lane, so we can identify the problem and then refer on. But look, I'm happy to roll with it, but maybe my interpretation of the report is a little bit different to those of my fellow councillors, I think.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Is that a question or just a comment?
No, maybe just a comment. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Are there any further comments, questions or debate? Back to Councillor Black for a right of reply. No? Yeah. Oh, sorry, Richard was too. Councillor Toyton for a right of reply.
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Sorry, my apologies, I couldn't see that. Before I move on, I will go back to Councillor Butler online, who has a question or a comment.
No, just getting ready to vote.
Thank you, Councillor. Jumped the queue. Back to you, sorry, Councillor Toynton for right of reply.
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. With that, can I ask governance to move to voting, please? Yeah, so, yeah. Councillor Butler has his hand up, so I declare that carried. And now we need to go back to the full motion. That was the voting on the amendment, correct? Yep. Cool. Throw a curveball at me. Okay. So back to the original motion with the insert. The amendment, sorry. Back to the amended motion. I think I need sacking. Could we have, I think, are there any further comments or debate or questions? Councillor Cowley.
Just a comment, Madam Chair, and I think I take the points about external operators, but I think on an issue like this, it always tends to land at council's feet, and I think if we're not taking the lead and leading the charge, then if not us, who?
Thank you, Councillor Cowley. Any further comments, questions or debate? Okay, so we will go back to, as there are none, I'll go back to the original mover, Councillor Toyton.
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. With that, we will move and ask governance to open the voting, please. Thank you. Councillor Butler is holding his hand up, so I could declare that carried. Thank you. Unanimously. Moving to 2.5, which is closure of the Culture and Community Committee. As there are no further items, I declare that the Culture and Community Committee closed at the time being 6:46. I'll now invite Councillor Richardson up to chair the Corporate Services Committee, and at the same time apologise for my fumbling through that section. Thank you.
I now open the July 2026 Corporate Services Committee meeting, the time being 6:48 p.m. Item 3.2, any conflicts of interests? There being none, we'll move on. Item 3.3, CSC matters considered by committees. There were no matters considered by committees. 3.4, CSC reports from council officers. 3.4.1, monthly reporting snapshot for councillors June 2026. Director, Strategy, Performance and Engagement, Jess Brown. The next item is 3.4.1. Do I have a councillor to move the motion in the business papers? Councillor Toynton, seconded by Councillor Wright. Councillor Toynton, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Any further debate? Councillor Wright.
Just a comment. I love seeing the big spike in numbers at the DRTCC in June. Obviously, off the back of the Stedford that was on at that month. So yeah, great to see solid attendance at that particular event. It's always very popular.
Any more comments or debate? I'll now ask governance to open the voting. Councillor Butler. Oh, there you are. Councillor Butler has his hand up. I'll declare the motion carried unanimously. Item 3.4.2, investment under Section 625 of the Local Government Act, June 2026. Director, Organisational Performance, Jane Bassingthwaite. The next item is 3.4.2. Do I have a councillor to move the motion in the business papers? Councillor Toynton, seconded Councillor Wells. Councillor Toynton, would you like to speak to this motion?
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Any further debates or questions? Being none, could governance please open the voting? Councillor Butler has his hand up. I'll close the voting and declare the motion carried unanimously. Item 3.4.3, General Manager Performance Net Framework. Manager of People, Safety and Culture, Karen Robertson. The next item, 3.4.3. Do I have a councillor to move the motion in the business papers? Councillor Ivey, seconded Councillor Black. Councillor Ivey, would you like to speak to that motion?
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Any further debates? There being none, I'll ask governance to open the voting. Councillor Butler has his hand raised. I'll now close the voting and declare the motion passed unanimously. The next items for consideration are deemed to be confidential. Under Section 10A of the Local Government Act, the next items being 4.2.1, 4.3.1 have been identified as likely to be discussed in a closed session of council. Could I now have someone move us into the confidential session to deal with the items? Councillor Wells, seconded Councillor Cowley. We've had no applications for members of the public to make their representations regarding whether the meeting should be closed to the public. Do any members of the public in the public gallery have any comments to make regarding the proposal to hear items 4.2.1 and 4.3.1 in a closed session of council? I'll now open the electronic voting. Lucas is working. I'll now close the voting and the motion is carried unanimously. I declare the motion carried and we'll move into closed session, the time being 6:52 p.m. The streaming will now be turned off and any members of the public will be asked to leave the chamber. The chamber will be reopened and the live stream restarted after deliberations on these matters with the resolutions to be made public. Please stop the web Committees return to open session at 7:25 p.m. Welcome back. I'll now ask the Governance Officer to play the resolutions from the confidential session. There are no further items for consideration of the standing committees, and I declare the meeting closed, the time being 7:26 p.m. Sorry. Web streaming has now been completed. Thank you for your attendance.